Oh, hello, and welcome to episode number 30, the Big 3-0. We want to thank last week's guest, Cindy Dick, one of the classiest people you'll ever meet, for taking the time to share with us her passion for the history of women in sport via her personal collection of pre-72 vintage Tiny Treasures Giant Legends trading cards. If you missed last week's episode, we encourage you all to watch and travel down memory lane on the history of women in sport.
Awesome. So thanks for that intro, Kent. See, we have quite a few people in the room that's coming here. We'll say hi to you very shortly. But before we do that, let's do a bit of an intro. So tonight's guest is a superintendent of the local school board. He's amassed a massive hockey card collection of nearly 100 black and biracial players who appeared at least one game in the NHL. And since Wille O'Ree first came into the league in January 18th, 1958. We're going to be talking about the importance of this journey on building on his collection and why he's doing it, his days as a younger hockey player. Let's welcome Dr. Dean Barnes to the show. Hello, Dr. Barnes.
Hello, Dean.
Hi, I'm Aaron Ken. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. I want to give a shout out to our buddy Name, who's in the crowd. His name is Indigenous Rookie Cards. So Dean, he's the reason we met you. He reached out and showed us your article. So just going to quickly say hi to a few people in the crowd. So Rip Paxlab. Hey, Peter Pac-Man.
Peter.
One of the foremost pioneers in our hobby in terms of music. He spreads a lot of positivity and love in the hobby. So we thank you for coming. Name again. Hello, how you doing? Thank you for introducing us to Dr. Barnes. We have Hockey Card Nostalgic. Hello. And I will let you guys fight on who's second and third. It's okay. You're all number one in my books. And we got Dennis. Dennis comes every show. Thank you. So we're glad to see you here as well. Bobby, we got a lot of people here today. Bobby Burrell and Nostradamus. So welcome all of you, and thanks for coming to check us out. So, of course, the focus is on Dr. Barnes today, so let's get into the fun questions. So, Dean, can you tell us kindly to our audience, what led you to the important task of documenting black NHL and biracial players through hockey cards who played in the NHL? What made you start it?
A few things. A lot of the awareness last March started for social justice awareness across North America and the world. And a lot of incidents seem to come to the forefront for hockey and the NHL as well. And couple those things along with, I think CBC did a special show one night. Ron McLean led initiative talking about Tony McKegney. I remember it was a highlight film for 2-3 minutes. It showed his first goal and a lot of highlights in his career. So some of those things just sort of got the wheels turning for me to say that this is some black history that we should be promoting and more aware. I think some history had been missed in acknowledging all these players who had stepped on the ice one time in the NHL, which is an incredible feat.
For sure. And also the pandemic allowed for a focus to be put on sports because everyone needed a distraction, and it actually provided the appropriate forum to surface issues and kind of talk about things in the forefront. So that's one good thing that came out of the pandemic from NBA, NHL, and various other leagues. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and I'm going to ask you some more questions. So yeah. Dean, when we met, one thing that stood out to me was how well educated you are. You're a superintendent of a local school board. Within a local school board, rather. You're the son of Jamaican parents, by the way, of Jamaica to England and finally to Canada. So a little UK to Canada action here. Your parents took it upon themselves to introduce you to the game of hockey at the age of 4, so I can share in the same feat as well. And today you still play in some way, shape, or form. As a child, you used to go to a local corner store, buy packs of hockey cards with your school friends. That's what I did with my dad. It's the Canadian ways. Do you want to add any color to what I just mentioned?
Yeah, just a lot of credit to my parents, Barbara and Clive, who came to Canada and had a little bit of athletic interest themselves. My mom ran track and field for Jamaica, not the Olympics or anything, but she did run track, and my dad did cricket. So I guess coming to Canada and their experiences from England and Canada, we just tried to immerse ourselves as much as we could. From my recollection, I think my sister, the first time I went out skating, I was actually public skating with her at a local rink.
Oh, nice. Your parents were athletic, so that explains your gifts for sure, Dean. Yeah. So and I'm talking about gifts. You obviously played hockey as a young child, but you were actually quite competitive. You played at Waterloo, so I believe it's the Waterloo Warriors. Were they the Warriors back then?
Yeah, University of Waterloo Warriors. Yeah.
Yeah. And then AAA before that. And then your hockey journey growing up was fairly tremendous from a competitive point of view. But did you face much prejudice as you were growing up?
I think there were incidents, probably not nothing glaring that kept me back, and I was fortunate to have a strong hockey group and parents. To this day, like we're in our 50s, and that the group that we started playing with when we were 8 years old was a real tight bond. So yeah, I mean, as you know, growing up in the 70s, there were not as many people of color, so it was quite a different thing for a person of color to be on the ice. I may have been the only person in my hometown that was playing AAA hockey. So
awesome. And by the way, just so you all know, Dean Barnes has an entry in hockeydb.com, which is a reference for all of us. He has an entry. I wish I had an entry. I think that's a pretty cool feat. Just before we go over to Kent's questions, I just realized, Kent, I stole your question because I got so excited. So I'll promise
That's okay.
We have, Peter Pacman is still commenting in the crowd. We have Kevin Shaw, who also has a collection similar to yours, Dean. So that'll be interesting to see how you guys can inspire each other. We also have Al G in the building. Best in getting a collector in a row. That is very true. So, Kent, over to you, buddy.
So Dean, I want to bring you back to a point about collecting cards as a child and growing up. Your principal used to play flip with you and your school friends. What was that like, and how did it cement your love of collecting hockey cards?
Yeah, I just remember it was all interwoven together. Our hockey team, people would pick up cards and play with them at tournaments. At our elementary school, our principal would come into the cloakroom if we were flipping cards, and he'd play along with us. And so it just seemed to be at that point in time, it was a really popular thing. And it just fed into our love and interest for cards, buying at the local store and getting doubles. And maybe sometimes you trade your doubles and you'd round out your set. So I know it was a 1979-80. That's the set I ended up keeping, or partially keeping. And I came back to it during the pandemic to try to complete.
Now, hopefully that wasn't the set you were flipping around.
Well, it's so long ago, it's hard to remember. I probably had more Gretzky's than I probably had more, but who knows where they went, right? I was able to get only one. Yeah. Excellent.
Let's see here. So to this day, you still play with some of the guys that were on your AAA team. You're still enjoying the game of hockey and have formed very tight bonds with your former teammates. Now, before I get into the other questions, I want to recap what we discussed for our viewers. You pretty much echoed the sentiments of most Canadians who grew up playing hockey. Your parents immigrated here. You started playing when you were young. You collected cards, like most of us. You followed hockey on WGR. Is it WGR or WGRZ?
Well, the Buffalo channel, because there weren't as many hockey games on. So I'd split between CBC hockey Saturday nights and then also WGRZ Buffalo for the Sabres, right?
Right. So you're a part of what I would call an immigrant success story and contributing to the very fabric of what it means to be Canadian. Now, I hope that provides inspiration to those of you out there still struggling to feel part of our Canadian fabric. The game of hockey sees no color. Wouldn't you agree, Dean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all sports should be that way, right?
For sure. Now, taking the comment about growing up and listening to WGR, you were primarily a Leafs fan, but a small part of you became a Sabres fan, having had a chance to meet Tony McKegney. What was that like for you as a kid, and what did it feel like that there was a role model that you could look up to who was in the NHL?
Yeah, it was pretty special, and I think I had referenced to you before that I got to volunteer at a hockey camp that was held in Burlington, and Tony McKegney, a number of Sabres, were actually running the camp. So I remember doing drills and helping out as an assistant, probably like as a 13-year-old. And it was pretty neat to, think of this player who was quite accomplished at the time to be around Tony McKegney. I think probably soon after that, or probably a few years before, I probably would have seen him when we went to a game in Buffalo, or we had a hockey tournament. We stayed over and saw a Sabres game. So he definitely was a big name and was recognized by many people, whether you're a minority or not. A lot of people loved Tony McKegney.
Did you get to interact with him at all during that?
Yeah, I did, and it's just interesting at that stage. Again, it's like I was almost working alongside with them, so it was more of a collegial thing at the time. But fond memories, and again, people should know. I mean, the fact that he played the same year of Canadian Junior with Wayne Gretzky, that was
Wow.
quite the highlight reel, right? So he was really quite a top player.
Excellent. At the age of 13, you decided to cash in your collection. What made you arrive at that decision, and what made you still want to hold on to that particular Gretzky rookie? You recently got it graded too, I believe. What grade did you get?
I actually got it graded 10 years ago.
Wow.
The Toronto show. And what happened is when I got rid of whatever cards I had, I don't think anyone knew at the time that card collection was as popular, but I did hold on to his card and a few specific players, and he was such an iconic player. Again, I think it's holding on to history. So I made sure I held on to that. The Edmonton Oilers were really rising at the time. Grant Fuhr, equally being a black
Oh,
player.
yes, absolutely, yes.
Had fond memories of him rising in the early 80s with the Oilers. So Mark Messier. Then you fast forward to when I got to university. I think, again, the card scene seemed to be a little bit dormant, and then it seemed to pick up with the Eric Lindros era. And
Right.
I remember his friends telling me you should buy this set. Set I have here. This was, I still have this unopened. It's
unopened. Well, look at that. Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of us, Dean, have that. I have probably 2 or 3 sitting on the shelf.
Everyone was told to buy that one, right?
Yeah.
So. And there was a bit of resurgence, and then I think there started to be some appraisals on cards, and then I left it, and a decade later, I think I came and got that Gretzky card assessed or rated.
And sorry, what grade did you get?
7 out of 10.
Wow, that's still pretty good. Yeah, 7's really good nowadays. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
wow.
KSA. So
yeah,
well, it's still really good.
Still good.
So for those of you who may find this. Actually, we find it very cool. Dean played against Glenn Gretzky when he was younger. So not only did he have Gretzky rookie, he played against his kid brothers Glenn and Brent. Not many people can claim that feat. And Dean has also played against Andrew Castle, Rob Zamner, Brendan Shanahan, Brian Marchment, and Jason Wille.
Yeah, so the big NHL names were all in the Pee Wee year, and this was my Pee Wee hockey team.
Oh, check it out.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see it there. And
there you go.
This was a program from the Burlington Golden Horseshoe tournament. And I know that in Ontario Championship, I kept that program. And the names you rhymed off, a lot of them were in that final tournament. The part about Glenn Gretzky was that he played in our age group growing up, AAA for Brantford.
Oh, yeah.
Burlington. And then after I played rep hockey, I played a couple years of high school hockey. Then I played Junior B in Kitchener for the Kitchener Dutchmen. And it's at that time I would have played against the other younger brother. And he played for the Brantford 99s, I think they were called. So, yeah.
What did it feel like to play against Gretzky's? What did it feel like?
Well, I think we all were kind of respectful of knowing that they were the Gretzky's. I remember Wayne coming to it was a end of the year celebration, and we were lucky enough to meet Wayne, and he signed our programs. And I don't think he was very often in the stands, obviously, because he was playing at that time almost NHL. But Walter was always around, I recall, and it was looking back, it's quite a memorable feeling to have played against them, for sure.
And you got to play with Brendan Shanahan, now part of the Leafs. Jason Wille with the Capital, I remember.
Yeah, they were all playing for the Mississauga Reps at the time in the Ontario Championship tournament. So we have a photo with them in the program.
I always loved Brian Marchment. I used to love the tougher players, so Brian was definitely that caliber type of player.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of people who made some comments in the crowd. Just want to make sure we address it. Name Indigenous rookie cards. Has asked you, Dean. Do you have any cards of yourself?
No, haven't explored doing that. haven't done that, but just some photos and stuff. And the set was all rookie cards as well. I think names is very similar. For the most part, they're all rookie cards. Yeah.
Yes. Name has a very extensive rookie card collection. I believe some players may have shared ancestry. I'm not sure. I let Name comment that. Also say hi to our friend Yannick, who's come to check us out. Sanderson to Orr again. Thank you for coming.
Hello, Eric. Nice seeing you again.
And Yannick has a cool story with Tony McKegney. He had a chance to skate with Tony when he played for the Nordiques. I love the Nordiques. I love the jersey. I still remember Tony McKegney's face, and I recognized him when I was a young kid. So I definitely recognize that face when you mentioned it earlier. And then LG, yes. Go ahead.
Speaking of the Nordiques, one of the players in the collection, he's not in the collection. He was the fifth player.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Saunders. He connected with me recently, and
nice.
Yeah, he is actually going to be sending a card, and he played for the Quebec Nordiques over 2 seasons.
Yeah,
but he was the fifth player. Yeah.
Did he have a manufacturer issue or a different version of his card?
I think he's sending some that were custom made, but I think at that time for OPG or Tops, he didn't play enough games to qualify.
Oh, to qualify?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
True. There was very relaxed rules back then on what qualified. I mean, they made enough Gretzky rookies to build a wall. So
yeah.
So let me go back to our questions here. Yeah, you mentioned this earlier. You said you took a hiatus, didn't get back into card until the 90s, and you showed that Eric Lindros set. What were you collecting between the age of 7 and 19?
Yeah, 7 and 19. Well, I did keep this too. I didn't tell you about this.
Oh, nice
record. So this was I was with my dad and picked it up at a game we went to see for Toronto versus Minnesota, I think. Probably when I was 7. I was starting to watch, getting into different sports. At Buffalo Bills, I always kept ticket stubs from various games I've been to. Different types of memorabilia, but it probably slowed down, to be honest, for a period of time there, and it was more or less just keeping items related to my sports experiences.
Yeah. Did you ever collect the Peter Puck books? Do you remember those?
I don't have those. I just remember watching the shows at intermission, but no, I didn't have any.
It was Brian McFarlane was one of the broadcasters. He wrote that book, I believe, Peter Puck. Yeah. Anyway, when you showed the album cover, I just remembered the powder blue suits that they used to wear on CBC, and then that led me to think of Peter Puck.
Yeah.
So, a bit of a hockey nerd here.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1990s roll around. You got caught up in the release of the boom of Big E, Eric Lindros, the release of Upper Deck. You showed obviously again that you had that, but why did you collect then, and what made you stop again?
Oh, what made me start again?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So definitely, I was not playing ice hockey. I play in a men's league, going to old timers. I stopped playing hockey, so my passion for hockey started to shift towards more documentaries and the card collecting. So the point I mentioned at the top of the story about Tony McKegney and reflecting back, and a lot of the piece about trying to capture and promote history was important to me. I think again that not many people knew about there was that many players who have played. And the story I'm telling, I'm sure there's many people just like me that grew up in the 70s, people of color that have similar stories of playing rep hockey or made it to collegiate but the ones that actually made it to the NHL, that was something special. So when I started to get through Herb Carnegie, who never played in the NHL, I met him once. Wille O'Ree, I learned about Alton White, Mike Marson, Bill Riley, Tony and Grant Fuhr were the first ones I got, and the process was working fairly good for me. So I kept collecting that series, and that's what sort of just kept the momentum going. I thought I can actually do this. I can sort of complete this set.
For sure. And you also mentioned, like, just going backwards a second. So the pandemic, right, got you into you were at home, probably not working. Actually, I don't know if you were or not, but you were probably at home mostly. You saw the Gretzkys. You got interested in that set. And you did mention that you were starting to go to eBay to try and complete that set. So why don't you mention that really quickly, and then we'll go into the rest of your collection.
Yeah, I think it was an exciting feeling to get mail. Actually, I don't get a lot of mail these days, so ordering those initial cards, ordering 5 or 10 at a time, getting the mail, and that's how I did it. I went through eBay and I did the research of cross-referencing the players, and that was my process. But again, it was replacing a bit of the passion I normally have for regularly playing hockey. That wasn't there, so it was a good fit for me.
Cool. So just fast forward a little bit to you're talking about your black and biracial hockey players. So one of the things that's neat that CBC has been doing over the last little while is they've been doing like Punjabi night. Hockey. I'm forgetting the name right now, but they do a Punjabi version of the Hockey Night in Canada. They have, I believe, a couple of Asian channels that also feature that, and they're doing a real push to ensure that that we have a culture of sensitivity and make sure we're inclusive and not diversive, and just want to show that it's sort of divisive and we are promoting diversity. So all that, I noticed that a lot during the pandemic, maybe more so because I had a focus on sports, and I was happy to see that. And I'm sure you were happy to see that as well, and that also helped you kindle the fire, right? You're like, okay, well, I want to do this, and in very short order, you got quite a bit of notoriety, just from your collection. And you've had a couple of articles now. I believe there's another article on NHL.com. So what does it feel like to get that kind of notoriety for this?
Well, my initial motivation for doing this was, again, to reflect upon history. We learn from history and broaden the awareness.
Yep.
So I think I've accomplished that goal. And I think as there's been more and more people of color in Canada now versus the 70s and 80s, I think that people have said there should be more inclusion, there should be promotion, more people should be enjoying experiencing this game. I think proportionately, if you saw the players that came through in the 70s, we were probably right on track to where we wanted to be. And then as things have evolved over the 80s and 90s, and basketball's evolved, soccer's evolved, hockey probably should be more prominent for people that are immigrants and visible minorities in this country.
For sure. There is one angle that separates the sport of hockey versus other sports is the expense. It is an expensive sport to play, the equipment versus basketball. You just need a ball and some shoes and a net and you're good. Soccer, again, a ball and a field. So hockey does have a bit of a divisiveness there that they do need to accommodate and account for. I've noticed it playing in my own sons, not playing in my son's league, coaching my sons in their hockey leagues, that they're fairly affluent parents for the most part that are taking their kids to these sports. So we need to bridge that gap as well.
I think on that note too, realize how privileged I was to play the game. And again, I think as you suggested, the costs are out of line with where they used to be. So there are some barriers to inclusion for everyone.
For sure. And there's a question here, and Dean, I don't know the answer to this. I never asked you. Do you have an Instagram account? There's a couple of people who would love to follow your account.
Yeah, I haven't posted anything on Instagram. I haven't.
There's an idea for you to promote and spread the good word. So Dennis, maybe very soon that'll come. Bobby, just so you're aware, Dean, Bobby Burrell is a resident hockey historian. He knows history of hockey from as far back as the eye can see and even further. And he's basically giving us a fun fact. Only 9 episodes of Peter Puck were ever aired. Thank you for that, Bobby. Kevin Shaw has a question. Let me read this again. I noticed I tend to imagine Herb Carnegie as a bold guy with some swagger and a confident presence. Was he like that in person when you met him?
Yeah, very kind and genuine, caring person with a lot of passion. And I know when I brought him to one of my schools, he was totally engaging for the students and also the staff. Very, very charismatic individual.
And Wille O'Ree is as well. And we're going to get into more of that as well. Name wants to say you have an awesome collection and awesome work. Keep going, Dean. And I know we're going to ask some more questions later, but Dean, when we found out about what you're doing with your collection, I couldn't help but smile. Ken couldn't help but smile. And this is the purpose of this channel, is to show other angles of the hobby and just to promote the awareness that, hockey is more than just a sport. Hockey can be a very much a unifying force if we want it to be. So go ahead, Kent, your turn.
I also want to just mention that Dean's story was also picked up on, I think it was NBC Sports, right, Dean?
I think the feed from NHL.com, yeah,
Went to them? Yeah.
And on NBC's page, yeah. So
excellent.
Yeah.
When you started this collection, what was the first 3 or 4 or 5 cards that you got? I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, but what were the others?
Yeah, I started with McKegney, Grant Fuhr, and there was a lot of talk about Wille O'Ree, but I had not ever got a card, so I did some research and got him on eBay. And the card I got was the Heroic Inspirations.
Oh, look at that! That's a nice one.
That's right. And then again, feel very fortunate to have met Herb Carnegie. Probably it was back in 2000, I believe. And,
wow!
And I did get his card here. I think. Sorry, it's glaring a little bit.
If you tip the card at an angle upward,
there you go.
There you go. That's how you do it.
That's
nice.
Right. So those were some of them. And I guess, again, there was some learning of history that went through with Alton White, because I didn't know that he was the first professional black player to play for the WHA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And, so he, in order here, professional players, he's number 3.
Number 3.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So some good learning on his card. And I have the Los Angeles Sharks, I believe.
Yeah.
Made for him. Yeah.
Is that signed too?
That one is signed. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Very nice.
I don't know if it's print signed, but yeah.
You know what's interesting? So there's 2 cards you showed. So just so everyone has context, and people in the audience may know this, and just someone for you, there is a manufacturer formerly of In the Game, Dr. Brian Price. He now does President's Choice trading cards. When he owned In the Game, he had a real concerted effort to include voices that weren't normally heard in hockey. So Larry Kwong, he produced an autograph card and a base card. The cards that you're holding is from the 1972 In the Game series.
Yeah, that's right.
And that one's actually got a very classic paper feel to it. So he produced that. And the other version you have there, which was the card that was the brown bordered card, is also from Heroes and Prospects, which he did a really good job of bringing out players that weren't normally featured in other sets. So like their quote unquote first hockey card, he made a concerted effort to put products out in the market like that. And a lot of that came from voices of people in the hobby. So people saying, you should put out this, you should put out that. And he also did that for Indigenous cards as well. There's quite a few players he's put out, and name you can confirm. I believe that's correct that he's put out a few like that, but Ted Saskamoose I think is the one that he put out as well. But again, name you can confirm for me here. Sorry, Kent, go ahead, buddy. I jumped in there.
No, it's all good. So Dean, when you started to amass this collection and then cards started arriving, what was the feeling? What was the feeling you had as you realized that you were about to start down this path that probably wouldn't end until you got them all?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be going slower, and then as it sort of kept moving along, and other ideas came to mind, like where will I put all of them? I know there's going to be about 100, so would I get all 100 in the case? And I made the decision that I was going to go with the case for 36. I picked up off Amazon.
Okay.
And then the remaining cards, they are they're in the binder here. So right, nice. So there's a set from the ones past 36.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think the momentum just continued to say I can get there, and once I conceptualize that, I can probably get 36. I had some conversations with my daughter Sydney. She's is a pretty good photographer. So she's the one who took the photos that actually showed up in the article, and also behind is this print. So we collaborated together to figure out how we can make a print. So
awesome.
She helped me with that.
Oh, so you're collaborating. That is a print that you're showing behind you?
It is, yeah, because there's a bit of a glare with the cards and the covers, so that's a print. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. It'd be neat to kind of take that a step further and kind of maybe market that to, put towards initiatives that promote diversity in the hobby from a black and biracial player perspective. Like,
Yeah.
I believe the Hockey Diversity Alliance is another place that maybe you should reach out, see if they have some interest. And they're fairly prominent players in that as well, and their roster is growing to be more inclusive. They're actually on our bucket list to try and get on our show. So So those are at HDA. If you're here, we would love to have you on our show.
Yeah.
So Kevin Shaw, he's known as Herbie's Revenge, I believe, on Instagram.
That's right. Yeah.
He mentioned he has an autographed version of that same Carnegie ITG card. So Dean, there is an autographed version in that series.
Okay.
And he says, "Go Dean! Yes, I love that series." So you've got a fan here, who collects similar to how you do. So whenever you do your Instagram and you look us up, we can connect you to.
Okay.
Cool. So let's go back. I think, Kent, you're still going, buddy.
Yeah. So when you were doing this research and amassing the collection, did you come across as to who the actual first black player was featured on a hockey card?
Oh, you're asking me like aside from Wille O'Ree or
Right. Was there anybody prior?
So if we're talking NHL, I made the tribute to Herb Carnegie, which I mentioned before.
Yeah.
I haven't done any research past that. I know there are other players who played at that point in time, but he was the most popular one.
There's probably, I wonder if there's issues like non-NHL, like WHA and on other professional leagues. I'm wondering if there any players in other leagues that you may have heard of?
As far as I know, if I've sort of ranked NHL and WHA the same, it was the cards I've shown, right, with Halton White. Then, of course, after Wille O'Ree, we Mike Marson, right? And I think he grew up in Scarborough, so then you got those cards.
Mm.
That set is, I believe, that Mike Botsy's rookie year? That's
this is actually a Topps card.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. I just learned that today that it was a Topps card. Yeah.
Does it say anything on the back of those cards at all?
Yeah. There's different notes. This one says actually, this is a trivia game. It's not about him. For Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill Riley and him. So there's some good history too that they both played on the same team.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Got the first couple of black players playing on the same team.
Huh.
It's pretty unique.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Name was mentioning that in some of the older releases, unfortunately, there were some insensitive remarks made on those cards. I was just wondering if there was anything on the older card that you may have seen.
I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Ken.
So Dean, when you were doing all this research, how did you go about doing the research? Was it just literally just Googling things, or was there some kind of database to look at? Like, how'd you go about that?
Some of it comes from my understanding of who the players were starting in that early era. Some of it's Googling and Wikipedia and other sites that were out there. So that, and looking at articles, I mean, those are the types of things I use. More history, I guess, is Tony McKechnie's brother, whose name has slipped me. He actually was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh,
and he probably would have made it if it wasn't for the Montreal Canadiens. And in the history, if I learned about him, he actually played OHL hockey in Kitchener.
That's fantastic.
Tony's brother, yeah.
Huh.
Oh, wow. Well, the Montreal Canadiens were well known for getting prospects and just getting talented ones and shoving them in the farm system so no one else could get them. So, like their minor league teams could have been another NHL team.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's a couple of questions in here. Sorry, the comment in here rather. So Eric, I believe, Sanderson Dwarf. He just read an original article about Alton White in a 1970s magazine he found in his closet. Being from Boston, Wille O'Ree is well known, but did not know about Alton White till Sunday. So there you go, a little bit of education and learning as we go. So talking more about your collection, and you mentioned you wanted to donate your collection for an awareness play. What avenues have you explored to kind of promote it and do this awareness campaign?
Well, I'm hoping that some contact with NHL. There's a Black History Mobile Museum, so I'm hoping that either the print or the collection could be loaned to them. So I know that the writer that did the article was optimistic that that connection would be made for me. And then that way, that mobile museum goes across North America. So again, I think it'd be great for everyone to become more aware of the rich history of the players who played in the NHL of African descent.
For sure. And then you mentioned that since those articles have been released, you've had people reach out to you. You did say that, yes?
I did. Like Bernie Saunders, who would have been the 5th NHL player, he contacted me. There's also Paul Gerard. I reached out to him, and he had played a short stint in the NHL, and he's coaching right now, I believe, in the NHL.
Yeah.
And he offered to sort of send a card out to me. And there's a few other people that just contacted me and said they had cards and said they would send them my way. Now, the reality is I'm really missing 5 for this set. And I think I'm down to 4 now because I have Saunders. And some of them I did not have NHL cards. And you asked me earlier about the research. Some just did not get cards unless someone made one up for them. So Paul Gerard doesn't have an NHL card, but I think he was going to send me one of his other minor league pro cards.
Yeah.
And there's another player that did say, I think it might be John Craighead, who thinks that he actually has an NHL card for Vancouver. This quoting, but he connected with me. So.
And what about any non-players? Any non-player like fans, like people who appreciated what you've done and just commented on it?
Yeah, I again, I'm not totally delved in the social media world, but there's been a lot of feedback from people in terms of the positive initiative, and obviously the guys I play hockey with have really commented on how powerful this has been, and other people that in my school district have mentioned as well.
That's awesome. Like I said, what you're doing is amazing. So keep up the good work. So couple of questions. So just recently, the Ontario Reign, which is the farm system to the LA Kings, recently featured a lineup that made history. Or at least I think it's made history. And those of you out in the crowd or yourself, Dean, can correct me. So Akil Thomas, Quinton Byfield, and Devontae Smith-Pelly formed the first all-black line since the 1940s. And that line in the 1940s was none other than Herb and Ozzie Carnegie and Manny McIntyre, otherwise known as the Black Aces. Now, what's interesting, and I wanted to touch upon this, can you explain to us in the audience, what is your connection to Akil Thomas?
Yeah, I didn't know I had a connection, actually. I was watching the junior game, and Akil scored that goal. And I recognized the last name's Thomas. And then I think there was a story run on his dad. I recognize the name of the dad because the dad's brother, Leo Thomas, I actually taught when I was a young teacher in North York. And I remember taking the kids, I was a physical education teacher. I remember taking the kids out on the ice to play for phys ed class. And Leo was quite the player right now. Now Leo, I did connect quickly on recently and a few years ago. And he went on to play semi-pro. And I believe he was the head coach of a Macon team, Macon, Georgia, I believe it is. So that was a connection. So it was a long time ago, but I actually taught Leo when he was in grade 9.
That's crazy. I just think, and we're gonna reference this a little bit later, but I love how there's a kind of the common thread that intertwines a lot of these stories. There's a lot of connections. So what really brings about it's a small world. It really is a small world, right? So, sorry, go ahead, Kent.
It would be a nice idea to have Upper Deck, since they have the NHL license, to create a player card of the first black player to play for each NHL team, assuming that this has happened for all teams. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, you are now a superintendent at the Halton District School Board. However, before you got there, you tried your hand in influencing activities that promote diversity and inclusion. Can you share with us what that was like?
Well, it's always been a passion since I've been involved as an educator and had that opportunity as a physical education teacher. I remember, I can give you 2 examples. One was when the Toronto Raptors first came to be a team in 1995 or 96, if I'm not mistaken. So there was a Sprite poster contest, and I remember both the boys and girls, grade 7, 8, 9. It was a real collaborative effort that we were able to win a prize, to win like front row seats to the Toronto Raptors, who were playing at the Sky Dome at the time. So from what I recall, we took a busload of kids who had that opportunity to watch the Raptors. It was probably like the fifth game that they've ever played. And the second was at one of my other schools. Girls hockey had not been very prominent until like the late 90s. So I started the first girls hockey team at Emory Collegiate. There was a hockey rink on
That's
site.
great.
We had free public skating for any of the kids who wanted to play and had the equipment donated. And then the girls on the hockey team, they competed in the tournament at the Beatrice. It was called the Beatrice Ice Gardens back then, where York University is.
Really interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I would say you're a trendsetter in getting started in girls hockey. That's for sure. I've had the pleasure of. So I went to Seneca, so I had the pleasure of actually interacting with Angela James because she was the intramural coordinator at the time there. And she is, as you all know, if most people don't know who Angela James is, she is one of the best female hockey players of this country, and she happens to be of color. So that was awesome for me to meet up with her during my educational background at the time. So speaking of education and career in education, you had brought in the famous Herb Carnegie for your students to learn and listen from. So what was the experience like for you as an educator to see him talking to your students?
Yeah, it was great again to be able to share someone that's had such a tremendous impact on the sport. And it was inspiring for the students at the school and as well the teachers, because he was leading a program that was promoting leadership and engagement and recognizing students for positive activities. So we really got a big boost from his visit. And I know to this day, people would still remember the visit he made to our school. It was special.
So so when you were observing, did you find that the students were really tuned into what Herb was actually telling them?
Oh yeah. Again, it's just like a talking history book, right? To be able to share his experiences and bring it to light. So yeah, it was quite influential.
That's awesome. Amit, over to you.
So now for those of you that have been watching from the beginning, so we mentioned Akil Thomas, we mentioned Herb Carnegie, we mentioned the Black Aces. Well, Dean has a connection to all of them. So I didn't want to say that's wicked. And I'm glad to have met someone who has has touched history in that way. So Dean, you're making history and touching history at the exact same time. Yeah. So I want to go to someone I've read more about, I'm more familiar with, and become more familiar with over time. And I have a couple of his autographs and some cards. Give us a chance about your chance meeting with Wille O'Ree.
Well, that's someone I haven't connected with either.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No. It was just Herb Carnegie. Yeah.
Okay.
I wish I'd met Willie by now, but yeah.
No worries. For some reason, I had written that you had met him. My mistake in the questions. So, yeah. But I will ask you this: what do Herb Carnegie and Wille O'Ree mean to you?
Yeah, well, they were both pioneers of the game. They both, when students and players are thinking of, is anyone else in the ice? It's a person of color. I think that's a strong reference for players to reflect upon, right, and feel good about that. Everything that they've done to the game. It's quite special.
Awesome. So, Dean, you've done more than just bringing special guests for you students. You've had your hand in forming girls hockey program, Emory Collegiate, you just mentioned. So tell us more about how did that come about and what gave you the impetus to do that?
The proximity to access was important. We had ice rink there and full use. There was a reciprocal agreement between the school board and the city, so there was no cost. So the fact that you could just walk down the laneway of Emory Collegiate and access that rink, all we were missing is ensuring that the students had equipment. So many of the students did have equipment, but those who didn't, we got some donated from parents and other teachers to make it happen, whether it was public skating or skating. It was fun, and we also would have some teacher-student games against the students as well. So really strong relationship building experience.
Awesome. So we're at the near the tail end of our show, and we do this one question that we ask all of our guests, which is our favorite question. We made one mistake. We showed you the question in our list of questions, so now we know the answer. So normally we don't actually ask you until the show. So I'm gonna act surprised. Kent's gonna act surprised, and hopefully we hear the question as we heard it for the first time. So, Dean, what inspires you?
Well, it inspires me to be able to give back and develop people and inspire others, and we all try to leave the world in a better place than it was before us. So I think anything that we can do as leaders to bring other people along, that's what inspires me.
Awesome.
Excellent answer.
That's a very good answer. And you know what? I still felt good at hearing it for the second time. I want to first, I know you have a busy schedule. You came at the last minute to attend our show. So I want to thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
I'm hoping that the people who tuned in to listen got a chance to listen to a bit of your story, your passion, and what you're doing. And of course, you can always reach out to Dean through us if you have any questions. We're definitely there to help him answer. But again, thank you for what you're doing. You're promoting diversity. You're showing a voice where there needs to be a voice, and it's a story that deserves to be told. So thank you very much for doing it, and keep going.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
No worries. So what we'll do is we're going to say bye to all our friends in the audience, and then Dean, you just stand by. I'll talk to you once we wrap up, and then we're all good to go.
Okay.
Cool. So everyone, have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
And next week we're going to change it up a bit. We're going to be talking to, actually, Kent, go ahead. You say the word better than I do.
The word? Well, we're going to be talking to two gentlemen who are actually host their own stamp collecting show. It's called Conversations with Philatelists. So we're going to be delving into the world of stamp collecting next week. So stay tuned for that. And I don't want to mess it up, but our two guests for next week are Charles Epting and Michael Cortez. So look forward to next week's show.
So I'm just going to say stamps because I can't say the other words. So anyways, folks, have a good one. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.